Forging Friendships Season 2 is sponsored by Iron Mountain Metalcraft, located in the beautiful Pigeon Forge, Tennessee area. Go forge a memory with Forged in Fire fan favorite Robbie Bowman. Woo! Season 2 is also sponsored by Oklahoma Knife Group, Black Dragon Forge, Paragon Kilns, Honest Aloe, Gents, and by viewers like you, link in description.
So when I was in the oil industry, working in the lab there, every so often I'd be involved in the hiring process. And my experiences with my girls and watching them take things apart and try and fix things and do all this made me somewhat of a pain in the ass when it came to hiring people. Because when it came my turn to interview the person, I only had one question. And that question is, what was the last thing you repaired? Because if you're working in the oil industry or even in a laboratory, you are responsible for maintaining, calibrating your equipment. And even though you may be a chemist, you need quite a bit of mechanical and electrical skills too. And over, one thing I noticed nowadays in like the last 15, 20 years is no one has ever repaired anything. The closest anyone could come up with is assembling a Star Wars AT&T Lego kit where they had the specific directions, and it's like, it's not really repairing. There's no troubleshooting there. It's just following guided steps. And that seems to be something that more and more is being lost. And so one thing I really wanted my girls to have is this ability to troubleshoot and repair things. And that has served them well, especially my older daughter. She's currently out in California getting a degree in 3D animation for movies and video games. But people also discovered she has construction skills. So she's ended up kind of quasi-volunteering, or voluntold, if you will, to help with the construction of different sets. It's a performing and visual arts school, so they're constantly putting on plays and shooting small movies and stuff like that. And she's ended up being kind of the costume designer, costume creator, because she's very good at sewing. That was one of the things that she learned. And she knows how to use power tools. She knows how to use a table saw. She knows how to use a drill. All these sort of things, which a lot of her compadres have no skill whatsoever with. And so her knowledge of how to do stuff has really set her apart at her school. I mean, the goal of a parent is to build a rocket and launch that rocket off into space. And the kids are our rockets, and you want a really good rocket because they're going to be away. So you're born knowing you're going to be a scientist. From age 3 or 4, I already knew, yep, I'm going to be a scientist. My goal was to be an astronaut. But there are certain physical reasons. One being I'm 6'5". The maximum height for the astronaut was 6'3". They can't make spacesuits bigger than that, or they don't make spacesuits bigger than that. Education was really important in my family. Even though my parents never went to college, education was very key. In fact, my dad was instrumental in basically tricking the town council into having to build a library in our town. So that's how important it was to him. And like I said, I knew I was going to be a scientist. It was what type. Obviously, I love plants, I love botany, I love being out in nature, but I also like creature comforts like a paycheck and a home. And that's not something that's guaranteed with botany. So I decided the second step, or the next best thing, would be chemistry, and more specifically, medicinal chemistry. Because I really, like my dad, I wanted to help people. So as mentioned earlier, my plan was to become a pharmaceutical scientist, to work for Pfizer or something like that. And so that's why I went into medicinal chemistry, because it seemed like the most scientific way that I could help people. Which is ironic then that I ended up in the oil industry. But again, using my knowledge of natural products to replace traditionally bad oil field chemicals with environmentally friendly good ones. My first patent was actually using cinnamon as a corrosion inhibitor for downhole tubulars. And so the following 15 patents after that were all natural product based stuff, solving problems that the oil industry had through the use of nature. So it was still helping people. It was making all this possible through the energy of the oil industry. I know some people are going to hate it, but this is all because of the oil industry. And I've helped them become even more environmentally friendly. So I was in the oil industry from 97 to 2016. And at that point, there was a crash in the oil industry. All the scientists got laid off. I was one of the last scientists they let go, but I was eventually let go and was immediately picked up by a consumer goods company, where I suddenly switched gears from doing downhole chemistry to environmentally friendly cleaning products. But along with that, they also had me use some of my herbal knowledge to develop a line of personal care items. And I did that for 3 years, and that gave me a very deep understanding of all the FDA regulations and toll manufacturing and all the stuff that was necessary to then start Medicine Man Plant Co., Medicine Man Plant Company, which is my pride, my joy, my baby, what I was meant to do. So Medicine Man Plant Co., it supplies what I call herbal primaries. These are not something you should take, as a supplement to your diet. No, this is something you'd be taking every day to, again, give you the strength and vigor and health of our ancestors. If you ever heard of Ötzi the Iceman, which was a 5,000-year-old Homo sapien found frozen in a glacier up in Europe, he had a number of medicinal plants and mushrooms with him to treat infections and so forth. So if you think about it from an evolutionary point of view, we've been using these plants and mushrooms to maintain and support our health. Survival of the fittest is the key component of evolution, that if you are the best adapted form for your environment, you're the ones going to be passing your genes on. And so it only makes sense that those that responded best to the plants and mushrooms to help maintain and support their health would be passing those genes on. And so there's like a genetic intertwining between us and the medicinal plants and mushrooms of our ancestors. And that's what I'm bringing back. I'm bringing back these plants, these mushrooms, but from a scientific point of view. So looking at the dosages, looking at the amounts of the plant, looking at which plants we want to be using in what combination of plants. That's what I do. I spend months formulating the different products to optimize its power in humans. And so we started that, me and my business partner, Stephen Skiff, we started Medicine Man Plant Co. About a month before the whole COVID apocalypse occurred, which almost killed us, but in the end, it's actually helped us, because people have come to learn that not all scientists and medicinal scientists and medicine companies necessarily have their long-term health benefits in mind. And it's really opened people's eyes to how did we used to do it. There's this belief that the early humans' lives was a nasty, brutish, short, and violent. And it actually, if you look at the skeletal remains and the fossil remains, even way back in ye old caveman times, we're talking, 30, 40,000 years ago. If you survived the first 3 years of your life, you were very likely to live into your 70s. So even without all the modern health care, the first 3 years of life were critical. There's a lot of things that kill babies. But if you made it through that stage, for the most part, you were as likely to reach the 70s as you are nowadays without the pharmaceutical industry, but with nature. Because nature is loaded with compounds. Nature has solved all sorts of problems. Plants are constantly healing themselves, fighting off infections, doing all this stuff, and have a plethora of molecules in it that then we can take. And that's what Medicine Man Plant Co. does. We found the plants that have the specific powers to take care of different issues and support different systems in your body. And it's what I'm meant to do. I absolutely love it. I love when someone emails me, it's like, hey, the blood pressure pill changed my life. I was able to get off all the blood pressure medicines, or the blood sugar. My blood sugar is now back to normal. I'm no longer pre-diabetic. The brain pill, I no longer have that brain fog at 2 p.m. that was constantly making my life miserable. And it's like, yeah, this is what we used to do, folks. Some of the things out there, you might have heard, like super beets and all this stuff for blood pressure control. So what the super beet does is it causes a nitric oxide to form in your blood, which is a vasodilator. So the super beet, which is kind of the new one, I don't use super beet in my formula because I use older stuff. Beets are actually a bred plant from a wild plant. But as an example, a lot of people have probably seen the infomercials on that. But the nitric oxide, like it causes the blood vessels to expand, to relax. So as the pipe gets bigger, it doesn't take as much force to put the blood through it. So in my case, in the blood pressure pill, let's say, I'm using the ancient plant Rosella hibiscus, which is an African plant, but it does the same sort of thing. When consumed, it causes the body to produce nitric oxide, which causes the blood vessels to dilate, lowering the blood pressure. Also in it, there is hawthorn. The hawthorn berries have been shown to strengthen the heart muscle and also reduce the effect of adrenaline and cortisol on the heart. Yeah. Two of the molecules that, the fight or flight reflex and stress, in short amounts, they're designed to basically give you superhuman powers so you can fight off that saber-toothed tiger, but you're not designed to be constantly flooding your body with the cortisol and the adrenaline like we are nowadays from just the stresses of life. And then one other thing in the blood pressure pill is ginger. And most people think of ginger as a spice, and quite frankly, a lot of the spices that we're using started out as medicinal plants, but they also happen to taste really good. And ginger, one of its powers is it's been shown to help convert the low-density lipids into the high-density lipids. The low-density lipids are considered to be the bad lipids that basically clog things up. And the high density are the good ones. The high density lipids are what a lot of our cellular membranes are made of. And so we're basically, converting something bad into something good. And these things work together to reduce the blood pressure.